I have something very exciting to show you. Now, I want to show just how incredible these Lightroom color profiles are, in that not only are they beautiful, not only do they take the complexity of Photoshop color grading and put it into a single slider in Lightroom, but they are also less destructive to the file. Now, if you've ever used multiple adjustment layers in Photoshop and seen banding, or what is more correctly called artifacting in a seamless backdrop, for example, something like this, or some other kind of circular banding where you see bands going around the image. As I say, this happens particularly on seamless backgrounds. It's very, very visible. If you've ever come across this, this is a destruction of the file and it is causing problems in your image. It's a real problem. It's something that we can get around by making sure we always work in 16 bits. But let's just, for the sake of argument, let's take a look at what happens to two identical color treatments, one created in Photoshop and the other one in a Lightroom profile. Now, to show that these two color treatments are identical, I'm going to show them to you side by side. Okay? Now, this is a color treatment on a photograph created using multiple adjustment layers in Photoshop. Here we have the exact same treatment, but converted into a Lightroom color profile. Now let's just wait. Okay, there we have. It's loaded now. And as you can see, the color toning is almost identical. I would say identical, if perhaps possibly a little bit cooler in the shadows on this one, but it's tiny. It's absolutely tiny. So this is the Lightroom color profile. This is the Photoshop equivalent made with multiple layers, like you'd see in an action with lots and lots of different layers. Okay, so in one, you've got multiple layers in Photoshop, which is great because you can individually tweak the various layers. The downside to having lots of layers in Photoshop is also that you're you're drastically increasing the file size. It's also very difficult to change. You would have to open the Photoshop file, delete that folder, run another action in order to change the look. But the other downside is that if we take a plain gradient in 8 bits, okay, now I know that you're retouching in 16 bits, so you can avoid all kinds of problems, that's fine, but just for argument's sake, we're looking at an 8-bit JPEG file. This is a plain gradient. This is where we see a lot of the destruction caused by Photoshop layers. Let's take a look at what happens with the same color treatment. Now, this is exactly the same color treatment used on these photographs here. Okay, so I've taken these the exact same color treatment, the exact same color grading, and instead of applying it to the photograph where we can't see the damage, unless you would see it in print often, especially if you have a seamless background, you would often see this banding, and this causes all kinds of problems. It causes people to fail in competition. It causes print problem when they go to try to print on a large wall art, for example. This is what happens to the file if we put this same color treatment on an 8-bit file in Photoshop using multiple adjustment layers. Can you see this banding? That is file destruction. Let's look at exactly the same profile, exactly the same color grading applied to an 8-bit JPEG using the Lightroom profile. Look at the difference. Okay, this one here on the right is the same color treatment in Photoshop. This one on the left is using the exact same color treatment in using the Love Color Lightroom Profiles. Every single one of my profiles has gone through this test. I have gone through this test to make sure that they are non-destructive, that they are not going to be causing problems to your files. Let's take a look at another one. This is a different color grading. Here you can see there's some warmth coming into the lights and then moving into creamy tones in the highlights and cooler in the shadows. But look at what happens in Photoshop when we're using multiple adjustment layers. Here is the exact same color treatment using the Lightroom Color Profile. Check it out. Photoshop, Lightroom Color Profile. Photoshop, Lightroom Color Profile. And that is on an 8-bit JPEG. There is no banding, there is no destruction. I'm really excited about this and I hope you are too. Enjoy using the Love Color Lightroom Profiles. They are amazing, they're revolutionary, and I can't wait to release Volume 3. Speak soon.